This is Dr. Blake Jones, and thank you so much for joining us today on the Guided Podcast. I'm really excited to be with my friend Gray Manus today. Gray and I've known each other for a bit. You worked at UK Psychiatry for a long time, and now you're in private practice, licensed clinical social worker. And so anyway, thanks for coming on the show today.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Good to see you again.
Yeah. This is the second time I've done a podcast with you, so this is kind of old hat for us, I guess. A little bit. So, Gray, we're here today to, I guess I first want to ask you a little bit about your practice. Tell the audience a little bit about you.
Well, I've now been doing this about 30 years, I guess, and it's just kind of been an evolution. I've worked a lot in addiction treatment early on. That's kind of where I've started, and various places, nonprofits, and then eventually got to UK Psychiatry. And when I got to UK, one of the things that happened to me that was really pivotal was I started seeing all these different people with trauma, and I was doing a lot of, Carl Rogers, unconditional positive regard, and listening and active listening, and really having a lot of compassion for these folks. And what I noticed was it wasn't really helping them resolve their trauma. So I went next door to one of my colleagues who told me about EMDR, and then that completely changed my practice and had a big impact on my career. I got trained in EMDR. I started seeing immediately that it was helping people, and I loved it. I've ended up doing so much more training in it, becoming a consultant, a facilitator, and now a trainer in EMDR. And along the way, continue to treat people with substance use disorders, but really broaden my practice. Mm-hmm. And then through that, I eventually came to I became aware of internal family systems. And I can't exactly remember how that happened, but I actually did some of that work myself and did some therapy myself using IFS, which really helped me through my divorce. It helped me with the loss of my father, and got training in that. And so I've been doing IFS since 2017, and then most recently, I had gotten trained in structural and strategic family therapy early on, and trained at the Family Therapy Center in Cincinnati, and did one-way mirror work with family. It was the most impactful, probably, training early on that I had, because you're working with families in front of a one-way mirror with a team behind, and getting a phone call and saying, have dad move over there and have mom move next to the son and talk to
literally
them.
Structural
Absolutely.
Changes,
and so I got trained in working with families and couples there, and then I did some couples work, and then I took a break from working with couples. And then when I got into private practice 3 years ago, I decided, you know what, I think I would like to get back into doing couples work. And I was really jazzed about using IFS, and had heard about using IFS with couples. So I went down to Austin, Texas, and did some intensive training in what's called intimacy from the inside out, which is basically an IFS-based couples therapy. Yeah. And so I've been doing that. I'm actually doing ongoing consultation with a trainer, and using that with couples. So that's kind of been a newer thing for me, but it's been good to get back into doing that. And and then also I continue to teach in the College of Social Work part-time, and then I worked for a company called Connect EMDR out of Orlando, and do EMDR training. So I've got a really full, busy life, but I really love it. So.
Yeah. You're a busy retired person.
I'm a busy retired guy.
That's what I thought.
I think I'm busier in retirement than I was when I worked at UK.
That's what I thought when I retired from UK too. I thought I'm just going to kind of hang out and enjoy my retirement, and now I'm busier than I've ever been. So that's how it goes. But let's back up for a second. So for people that are listening that don't know what EMDR is, and I'll ask you to do the same thing with internal family systems, but could you describe both of those things in sort of simple terms? We'll start with EMDR. What is EMDR?
Well, EMDR is it's an overall psychotherapy approach to treating a multitude of different challenges. It was initially, though, developed to treat post-traumatic stress disorder. Mm-hmm. And Francine Shapiro was the person that discovered it 30-something years ago. It stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, which is a mouthful. And I know Dr. Shapiro said if she had to do it over with, she'd just call it reprocessing therapy. Be a lot more simple, but it's really kind of a odd story how it got developed. As the story goes, she's walking in a park one day and she's thinking about her previous experience with some trauma, and she notices that she's having this. And now I'm drawing a blank. So she's walking through the park and she's thinking about and I think that she had cancer previously, and she's thinking about this really difficult time in her life, and she notices that as she's thinking about it, all of a sudden it's losing its charge. There's like a de-arousal effect going on. And being the extraordinary person that she was, I mean, I never would have noticed this, but she noticed that as she was thinking about her experience, she was moving her eyes back and forth in an upward diagonal motion. And so she started doing this with intention, and she started bringing up the distressing experience, moving her eyes back and forth. And it had this de-arousal effect. So, she was a PhD student at the time. She decided to start doing this with colleagues and having them bring up everything from childhood humiliation experiences to just stressful events. And lo and behold, they started having the same experience. And so she eventually did her first research with sexual assault survivors and Vietnam veterans and developed this protocol. And it just kind of has grown from there. And she would have people move their eyes back and forth on their own, but a lot of the folks started complaining that it was hard for them to kind of do that on their own. So she had them start following her finger back and forth. And that's where the eye movements come from. But now we know that there's other ways of doing it besides just the eye movements with tactile and auditory. It's all about the bilateral stimulation, the back and forth. And the other interesting thing about it is, and I tell my students this, is that we still don't know exactly why that works. We know that it does, like a lot of evidence-based things. We know that it does work, but and there's some different theories on why that happens, but we know that it does work. So and there's much more to it than that. But
it is amazing. I do it as well, and it is amazing to me how it does work. And I struggle to sort of explain that. It sort of feels like voodoo magic sometimes. But I think there's something about just the cognitive and the emotional part that's tied together as people are recalling, trauma, that just it processes it and it calms them, and then they're able to sort of, integrate that somehow. But even after just one session, I've had people come in and say, that was amazing. Like, that's the first time I've ever been able to talk about that or really.
Right. And I don't know if you've had, I've had people that have been in therapy for 20 years and they'll come in and they'll do one session of that and they'll go, I've been working on this for 20 years and I've never been able to have, that experience and to have that kind of resolution. So it can be really powerful.
It's amazing. So do the same thing with internal family systems. I'm asking you to boil this down into like a minute or two. I know that's hard, but what's IFS?
Well, yeah. Well, let me start by saying that one of the things I noticed doing EMDR is that sometimes people would get kind of stuck, and things would not process. And one of the things that IFS, or internal family systems, has really helped with is that sometimes someone will have a kind of a protective part that emerges during processing with EMDR, and this part of them it's basically like this part is saying, you know what, we're not going any further than this. We don't want to go there. It's kind of like a guard at the gate, right? Saying we've done enough. We're not going any further. It might be too painful to do that. And I won't say that it happens all the time, but it does come up. So I was intrigued by that, and I think as I was learning a little bit about IFS, I was like, so this idea that and this idea is is something that's been around since Carl Jung, right? And when he talked about archetypes, you can say, well, these were different parts. You know, my shadow, for instance, is a part of me.
Right.
So this idea of parts has been around a long time, but in IFS, basically the perspective is that it's the nature of the mind to be divided, and that we all have different parts within us that. And some are wounded, and some are protective parts that protect those wounds. And the other thing that's really central to IFS is that we have these different parts within us, but we also have something called the self, with a capital S, and I refer to it as highest, wisest self. And it's kind of like if you think about an orchestra. An orchestra has all these different musicians, and then it has a conductor, right? And the conductor is kind of like the self, right? It is in charge, and the musicians do their things. And when they really follow the lead of the conductor, it sounds really great. But if one of the cello players kind of does its own thing and tries to hijack the whole orchestra, it doesn't come off too well. And so that's what can happen with us internally is, when my highest, wisest self is not in charge, and I get, for instance, anxious about something, that anxiety, that anxious part of me can kind of hijack me and cause me to not be able to sleep well at night. Or and what it's doing is, it may be protecting a part underneath that is, for instance, afraid about screwing up. Or, I'll give you an example. Like I had to do a talk in front of a large audience downtown a couple of years ago, and I'd done a lot of preparation for this. I had a PowerPoint. I had everything ready to go. But there was a part of me that was anxious about it that continued to kind of come into my mind and say, you really need to you're not going to do well at this if you don't look at this and study this more. And because I've done my own work, I was able to go in and talk to that part of me and say, look, I really, I appreciate that you care about how I'm going to perform, and you kind of befriend this part, right? And I get what you're trying to do. Let me stay and handle it. I've got this. I assure you that I have been preparing for this. And it just gave me space and just stepped back. And so that's one of the things that I try to work with folks on is one, being able to identify these different protective parts and helping them to befriend these parts, and ultimately we would like to be able to go to the wounded parts that they're protecting and heal them. But even if we can't do that, one of the most powerful things that we can do at IFS is something we call unblending, which is to no longer have that part completely hijack you, but have some space and some recognition that, hey, there, it's just a part of you, and you can appreciate it, but when you unblend from it, you become much more, we call self-led.
Yeah.
So that the conductor is in charge and not the cello player or the violin player.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and they say, one of the things they say in IFS is that there are no bad parts, right? So when we think about anxiety, we think about, that's awful. I got to do something to push that away. And you're saying that in IFS that that part is welcomed. You sort of, yourself talks to it. You manage it rather than it managing you.
Yeah, I mean, and Richard Schwartz, is the person who developed IFS, and he actually talks about that. I think one of his examples is really is great about how, like, if you're doing IFS, you have this perspective, and you have someone come in your office and they start to experience a panic attack. You would want to be really curious about it. You would want to help them to be really curious and welcome that part into the room, where a lot of other therapies you would be like, what can we do to like try to get this person to not have this panic? What can we do to help them get grounded? What can, this is a bad thing. This panic thing is a bad thing. Whereas with IFS, we go, okay, there's a part that's panicky. What's it trying to tell us? Because the other thing is as you said, it's a title of a book, No Bad Parts, but basically all the parts have good intentions.
Yeah.
So even someone who, for instance, has a substance use problem, that part of them that drinks too much or uses some substance actually has some sort of good intention. Maybe it's to help them escape. It's to help them not feel pain. And so even the parts that cause negative consequences actually have some sort of good intention. And a lot of times to protect another part that feels shame or feels some sort of emotional pain. And so ultimately, we want to befriend those parts so that we can go to the part that they're protecting that feels that pain and heal it. So
So Gray, let's talk a little bit about IFIO, intimacy from the inside out, which is related to internal family systems. What is it in general?
So IFIO is really a IFS-based couples therapy for short. I mean, it incorporates psychodynamic and neuroscience and polyvagal and things like that also into the therapy. But primarily, it's based on the IFS model. And so, in this therapy, each of the partners in the therapy are going to learn to have an interrelationship with their parts that's going to also help them have a better connection with their partner. And so it's a lot of it is getting to know these protective parts that can get defensive with each other, and what I call unblending from these protective parts so that you can be more self-led. And we know that a self-to-self relationship is going to be better than a parts-to-parts relationship. And when we talk about self in IFS, we're talking about things like qualities like compassion and clarity and connectedness. And those are the kind of qualities that help foster a more intimate, connected relationship. The other thing that's really important in IFIO is this idea of differentiation. And what we mean, one of the things we mean by differentiation is that, can I be different from my partner and also stay connected? And so we really want to help foster that differentiation. And the reason they call it intimacy from the inside out is by doing the internal work, they can also be more connected with each other. So internal attachment and relationship between self and parts, and then the relationship between you and your partner, and the attachment and connection between the two of you. And so you're paying a lot of attention initially to, when this person does this, the other person does that, and then when they do that, the other person does that. So we kind of want to become aware of the dance, but we're looking through that lens of IFS, and we're looking at what we would call the protector dance, right? We think of it in terms of protective parts, and so with IFIO, we want to get an idea what that protector dance is, and then we want to slow things down, and we want to help each person be able to do something, and this is an IFS term, to be able to do something we call a U-turn. And instead of looking at their partner and what they're doing, and a lot of times being defensive and blaming them, we want to be able to teach each of the partners how to, instead of looking at the other, look inside themselves at what's going on. And so this is where some of the IFS work comes in, where you're looking at what's going on inside of me, what am I feeling right now, and where do I feel it in my body? And what's the story that I'm telling myself about what's going on right now? So if I have for instance, I'm working with someone and they're telling me that they're feeling angry, they tell me they feel the anger in their stomach, then I may ask them, and what are the words that go with the anger? And maybe they say, well, that my partner doesn't care about me. Okay. And what's your first instinct to do when you're telling yourself that story? And their first instinct may be to shut down. And, well, what do you actually do? Well, they may shut down, or they may actually leave the room, or they may actually have another part of them that's angry come out and get really defensive because they don't want to feel what's underneath, which is the rejection of their partner. And by doing that, sometimes they're able to, by having that awareness, they're actually doing some unblending there when they're doing the U-turn, because they're noticing that it's not just them, it's a part of themselves that's doing this. And the hope is that if they can unblend a little bit, they can be more self-led with their partner. And we know that parts attract parts, and self generally attracts self. So I don't know that I've explained all that very well.
No, it's a lot, but what I'm hearing is that the self-reflect. Well, let me back up. Couples get in patterns, right? And so it's important for us, as therapists, to help them understand these patterns. But IFS and IFIO goes deeper in allowing them to understand those parts of them that are triggered or that are coming out during conflict, during those patterns.
Well, one of the things that comes up a lot with couples is that it's I don't know if you're familiar with Terry Real or not, but he talks about we marry our unfinished business, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think whenever we get into relationships, our partner is inevitably going to activate old wounds from our parents, our caregivers, our previous relationships. And so So let me give you a personal example, and I use this example because I did an IFIO training for the clinical society, and my girlfriend said, "Why don't you use that example of when we were at the lake a few years ago?" So my girlfriend and I were at the lake visiting some friends, and we were on a boat with some people, and then we ran into some other people, and I knew them and she didn't. And anyway, during the exchange, I introduced my girlfriend, but I did not introduce her as my girlfriend. Well, little did I know, I think there was a part of her that felt like, am I not good enough for you to, introduce me? And then, so we went on with the evening, and then on the drive home, she let me know that, I can't believe you didn't introduce me as your girlfriend. And so there was a part of her that, and maybe it was an old wound, I don't know, that got activated. And it wasn't my intention to activate that, but the fact of the matter is, that got activated in her, right? And then she responded with some defensiveness, or I don't know if you want to call it defensiveness, but she let me know about it. And what happened inside of me, rather than saying, "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. Of course, I'm so proud that you're my girlfriend. I love you so much, and I'm sorry that I did that." There was a part of me that got activated that was like, I think there was some shame around. I didn't do a good enough job as a boyfriend. I should have introduced you to them, and I screwed up. And so I responded with defensiveness, like, are you serious? I mean, it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't. And so it just went back and forth. And eventually there was a repair, and she was able to get that I was sorry. I loved her. I'm proud of her as my girlfriend. But that example is such a good example of what can happen between couples without you even really recognizing what's going on. Inevitably, you're going to activate, old wounds in each other. And when that happens, those protective parts are going to come with some defensiveness.
Yeah.
So when I'm doing IFIO with a couple, I'm helping them to get to know what those parts are, and to hopefully see what's underneath that protective dance, that there are some wounds under there. And there's some different things that we can do in IFIO that can really be healing for that. And one of those that I think is a little bit different than some other therapies is that couples will do, if they're willing to, they can do individual work with their parts while the other partner witnesses that. Now there's a lot that goes into that, because if someone's going to get that vulnerable and do that kind of healing work, we need to make sure that their partner is in self and not in one of their parts. And so there's things we do to make sure that happens. But that can be very powerful, because then the partner doing the individual work is being witnessed. They're not only witnessing the healing within them, but their partner is also witnessing that, and having an open heart and a lot of compassion towards them.
Yeah.
And so, another thing that we like to say is that, you're the primary caretaker for your parts. Your partner can be the secondary caretaker. And so it's not about them fixing you. You have to be primarily responsible, but they can be a secondary caretaker for those parts that are wounded, that come up. So I don't know that I've really explained.
Yeah.
There's so it's kind of complicated.
It's a lot. You've done a great job. What part of you is being activated right now? Great. No.
There's a part of me that's doubting I've explained it well. Yeah.
You've done great. It's I feel like we've just scratched the surface a bit, and so maybe we do a part 2 in the future about this. But where would people find out more about IFIO? Where, if therapists are interested in learning more about it, where would they go?
Well, there is a website. The other thing that I would say about IFIO is with IFS training, there are different levels of training. So I did level 1 training, and it's very intense, and it takes a lot of hours and a lot of long weekends. And I did mine in person, and it was over a year of every other month I went to Charlotte, North Carolina, and did it. Well, that was in 2017. Now it's kind of exploded with and with people being interested in doing it. And my understanding is there's lots of waiting lists to, try lottery kind of things to get into the training.
Yeah.
But there's different levels, and you have to have the level 1 IFS in order to do the IFIO, which is considered a level 2 training. And then there's actually a level 3, which I haven't done. So if you're really interested in doing IFIO, you first have to do the level 1 IFS training.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. And how would people find out about your practice if somebody wants to come and see you?
Well, they can. I do have a website. It's graymanus.lcsw.com. So you can go to my website. There's contact information there. Yeah, you can call me. You can text me. I'm in Lexington.
Great.
And I am, taking new patients. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Gray, I appreciate you so much for coming over today, and just as I mentioned, this is the second time that I've talked with you, and your professor side always comes out when we have a chat. I always learn a lot when I sit and talk with you, and I love that about you, that you're you're not one of those therapists that got trained 30 years ago in something and that's all they wanted to do. And I mean, you're a person that continues to grow as a therapist, and also doing your own internal work, like you said. And I've always thought that that's an important part of being a therapist, is really looking inward first.
Absolutely. I tell that to my students all the time. If you're going to do this work, you need to do your own work, right?
Yeah.
It's not a matter of whether you're going to get activated or not. You're going to get activated.
Absolutely.
So you need to do your own work. And I was told early on, every therapist should have been in therapy at some point or do ongoing. And
Yes.
I think it's important to have had that experience, or continue to do the work.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks again for coming over. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. This has been the Guided Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, and we wish you well along your journey.